My name is Ith Voranu, Raid Sergeant, Kelvash Cartel, Ground Division. I am filing this account myself because the automated after-action report was rejected twice by Review Command as tactically implausible, and because I would rather my own voice be on record than have 3 dead soldiers reduced to a line item titled Equipment Failure. We went to KES 9 for labor stock. It is not a contested world. Nobody garrisons it, nobody claims it, and the humans who scratch a living out of its ash flats have no weapons worth confiscating and no fences worth cutting. The atmosphere is thin and gray, the soil poisoned 2 centuries back by something none of the settlers can tell you the name of, and what grows there grows low and grudging, in cracks, in shelter. We had taken from 3 other enclaves on that continent without incident. Clean lifts, minimal resistance, the kind of run that makes command stop asking questions about the ground team's methods. Hollow Cistern was supposed to be the 4th. We came in low at dusk, engines cold, the way we always do, and the first thing that reached us before the settlement even came into scope range was the sound, a rhythm, metal on metal, deep and even, carrying across the flats the way sound carries when there is nothing else alive for 100 kilometers to get in its way. My tech officer, Ravel Osk, called it a resonance signature and started logging frequencies. I called it drumming, because that's what it was, and I told him to stop wasting bandwidth on it. The humans do this every night. We learned that much from the 2 enclaves we'd already taken stock from. When the light goes orange and the wind picks up the ash, they gather in whatever open space they have, and they beat on scrap metal, sheet drums, hollowed tanks, anything that rings, and they keep time together until the dark is all the way down. It is not music in any sense our own culture would recognize as such. No melody, no instrumentation beyond the found metal, nothing performed for an audience. It is closer to a shared heartbeat, 40-odd people breathing on the same count, so that none of them has to sit alone with the wind and the ash, and whatever else the dark brings. Our behavioral officers filed it under morale ritual, low priority, does not indicate coordination capacity, does not indicate combat readiness. I had no reason to disagree with them going in, and I want that on the record too, because I signed off on the assessment myself. The scan of Hollow Cistern gave us 41 bodies, most flagged as laborers, healthy, sortable. 12 flagged elderly or injured, low extraction value. One of the 12 was standing at the center of the ritual circle, with 2 heavy mallets, keeping the rhythm the rest of the settlement moved to. Gray hair, stooped posture, thin arms. The scan called her Subject 14, threat negligible, and recommended she be left behind as not worth the transport weight. I want to be precise about what happened next, because precision is the only thing that will make Review Command believe it. We took the perimeter fast and quiet, the way we're trained, 5 soldiers and myself moving in the blind spots between the settlement's few standing structures, while the rhythm covered whatever noise our boots made in the ash. My team moved on the labor cluster, while Subject 14 kept drumming 20 meters away, like we weren't there at all. She did not run. She did not look up. In 11 years of groundwork, I have never seen a civilian fail to react to an armored presence inside their own perimeter. And at the time, I logged it as confirmation that our approach had gone unnoticed, rather than what it actually was, which was that she had noticed us immediately, and simply had not yet decided we were a problem. Corporal Desavron broke off to secure a young man near the drum circle, a strong specimen, high extraction value, worth a second set of hands, and that is when Subject 14 set down her mallets. She did not raise an alarm. She did not call out. She walked to Vron, put one hand on the arm of Vron's power suit, the forearm plating, rated to stop small arms fire, and closed her grip. The plating buckled. I watched the readout on my own wrist unit go from green to red. Before I understood, I was watching a structural failure happen in real time, under a human hand, at a pressure the suit's own diagnostics logged as impact equivalent, unrated, exceeds test parameters. Vron went down more from the shock of it than the injury. Subject 14 let go, picked her mallets back up off the ground without hurrying, and turned to face the 2 soldiers I sent in to cover the corporal. They hit her with a stun charge rated to drop a Threll warbull. She staggered. I will grant her that. She staggered. And then she closed the distance in 2 steps and used the mallet in her right hand, the way you'd use it on a drum, one clean overhand strike, and it caved Private Austin Turek's helmet seal on the first hit. He was still breathing when we pulled him out. He is not breathing well now. The second soldier tried to grapple her from behind. Full power assist, the kind of hold that's put down augmented insurgents on 3 different worlds. She threw him. Not far, maybe 4 meters. But with enough force that his own armor's inertial dampeners triggered an automatic medical flag before he'd finished landing, and by the time he stopped moving, his left shoulder assembly had separated from the socket entirely. The whole engagement, start to finish, took under 30 seconds. She never raised her voice. She never looked triumphant, or angry, or afraid. When it was done, she crouched over Turek for a moment, checked that we were pulling him out and not leaving him in the ash, and then she picked up her second mallet, walked back to the center of the circle, and resumed the rhythm exactly where she'd left it. Not one beat lost, as far as Osk's frequency log could tell. We took our wounded and withdrew. I gave the order myself, and I stand by it. We do not have doctrine for an unarmed 60-something-year-old woman, flagged negligible threat who cracks rated power armor with her bare hand and puts 2 soldiers in medical with a percussion instrument. We have doctrine for soldiers, for augments, for the things we scan for and expect. We do not have doctrine for a grandmother who was simply keeping time. Command wants to know how she did it. I've read the physiology reports our medical staff drafted since, the ones trying to model where that kind of force comes from, in a frame that's scanned as unremarkable in every category we measure. Bone density, unremarkable. Musculature, unremarkable. No augmentation signature, no chemical trace, nothing on record that explains it. The closest anyone has come to an answer is a note buried at the bottom of the medical file, from the officer who reviewed Turek's helmet damage. Sometimes the body simply produces what the moment requires, and the species has apparently never bothered to tell itself where the ceiling is. I do not think Subject 14 knew what she was capable of before Vron put a hand on that boy. I do not think it was trained, or planned, or even known to her at all, until the instant it was needed. And that is the detail I cannot get past. We build soldiers for years to reach a fraction of what she did in half a minute, without preparation, without warning, and without apparently understanding it herself. We are recommending Hollow Cistern be struck from the extraction list. Not for lack of value, the labor stock there is as good as any we've taken, but because the cartel does not currently have a unit rated to survive a second attempt, and I am not willing to spend more of my people finding out what else that woman, or anyone standing near her, might turn out to be capable of when the moment asks for it. Review Command's first response to my draft was to ask whether Subject 14 might have been a decommissioned military asset embedded in the population, some augmented relic left over from an old human conflict, because that at least would fit a category we already track. I told them no. I told them our own scan flagged her negligible threat for a reason, because by every measurement we know how to take, she was exactly what she appeared to be. An old woman, a grandmother maybe, or an aunt, or simply the one whose turn it was that season to keep the rhythm going, so the rest of the settlement could sleep. There is nothing in her file that predicts what she did. That is precisely the finding I am filing, and precisely the one I expect will be rejected a third time, because it is easier for Command to believe we found a hidden soldier than to believe an entire species may be quietly capable of this, and simply never has cause to know it. The last transmission from our recon drone, before we pulled it out of range, still had the audio running. Under the wind, under the retreating engine noise, you can hear it if you isolate the frequency, the rhythm, steady, unbroken, carrying on exactly as it had before we ever arrived. She never stopped keeping time. We were simply not part of the song, and for 30 seconds, neither was anything we brought with us.